Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the power steering lines in this 2008 Chevy Silverado. If you need parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. We're going to raise and support the vehicle. We're using a 2-post lift. If you're doing this at your house, you can use a jack and jack stands. Underneath here, the power steering hoses right here. This one comes from the steering pump, and then this one comes from the rack and goes to the cooler. These two lines come together. So on the steering rack itself, there's a little clip right here. I'm just gonna pull that off, set that aside. We're gonna take an 8mm socket and an extension. I'm going to take this bolt off. It goes right here. You're going to want to make sure you have a drain bucket underneath to catch the fluid that comes out. Pull that bolt out. With that bolt out, we can just grab the two lines and just wiggle it back and forth a little bit, and they'll come out together, and the fluid's going to drain. All right, now I'm going to take a 16mm wrench, and behind the power steering pump, we're going to take this line off right here. You can get onto the nut right here. A little bit tricky, and because it's a 2-wheel drive, it's actually pretty easy. If you had a 4-wheel drive, this would be a little trickier. Loosen this up. Now that that's loose, I'm going to just slide that out like that. Now from under the hood, we're going to get the part of the line that goes to the cooler. So this is the line right here, and there's a clamp right there. I'm just going to use some hose clamp pliers. Clamp onto the hose clamp, squeeze it and just wiggle it back and forth. There we go. Pull that hose off right there. We'll just slide it out over here, and we can pull the hose right up. And there's the old hose. All right, we're going to take the new hose, this side that goes into the steering rack. We're just going to slide down here. Just leave that there for now. Slide this over here, and then this part of the hose is going to go over here and onto the cooler. Just going to hold the hose on the cooler while I wiggle the hose on. Just like that. And then there is a little bracket right here. It's going to click on to this brake line right there, just like that. And I'm going to pull this clamp retainer off. Just grab it, pull. I'm just going to twist it to the side, pull it off. Now that hose is secure right there. All right, so with this hose right here, I'm just going to position this into the steering rack first. I'm not going to screw it in yet. Just going to get it in the right position, just like that. Then we'll take this hose that goes into the power steering pump, get this into position on the back. I'm going to slide this into position on the power steering pump. I'm going to start this hose into the pump. It's a little hard to thread this into the pump. Sometimes you have to wiggle the line. It has to go in there exactly straight. So if you wiggle the line back and forth, you definitely want to do it by hand. You don't want to take a wrench until you get a good amount of threads on there. Okay, that's in there. So now I'm going to tighten this up with my 16mm wrench. It's hard to get a torque wrench in here, so I'm just going to use a wrench and snug it up real good. You want this line positioned so this part of the line is getting close to the pump, but you don't want it touching the pump itself. Just maybe about a quarter to half an inch away from the pump. So I'll hold that line while I snug this up. After you're done the job, you're going to want to check and make sure there's no fluid coming out there. If it is, then snug it up a little more. I'll take our 8mm socket, extension, and ratchet, get this bolt started. I'm going to use a torque wrench and just tighten this bolt down to 104 inch-pounds. Make sure you're on inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. That's it. Now we're going to fill our power steering fluid. Take this cap off. Just going to use a funnel. Make sure you get the appropriate type of fluid. You can generally check in your owner's manual. We'll top off the steering fluid. Just gonna check where my level is. Just put the cap back in, check the dipstick. It's just on the, just a little bit on the end of the dipstick. I'm gonna fill it up to full cold. You can see where it says full cold. The dipstick back in, pull it out again, and that looks pretty good right there. So at this point, I'm just going to put this cover back on. All right, for bleeding the power steering system, we're just going to turn the key on, the engine off. I'm going to go from lock all the way to the right, then all the way to the left, to lock again. I'm going to do this 12 times. This is pumping fluid through the power steering system. It goes from the reservoir through the pump down to the steering rack, and the steering rack is actually the one pushing the fluid through. Then it'll go through the cooler and then back to the reservoir. All right, after we did that 12 times, we're gonna steer the steering wheel straight and turn the key off, and we're gonna recheck our fluid. Take the cap off, wipe the dipstick off, reinsert the cap and check it, and it looks pretty good. It's right at the cold full line. So at this point we can start the vehicle and turn the wheel back and forth a couple more times, and then shut it off and recheck the level.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.